Every single morning, Marcus Cole made the same choice. Help a stranger in a wheelchair. She was young, beautiful, always wearing dresses too bright for someone bound to a chair. Her wheels would catch on the curb outside the pharmacy. Marcus would lift them free. His daughter Lily would wave. The woman would smile, but her eyes always held something heavier than gratitude. He thought it was just kindness, just being a decent human being. But on one frost-covered Thursday, she pressed a worn envelope into his hands and said 12 words that shattered everything he thought he knew. I was in the car that killed your wife. I survived. 5 years ago, Marcus lost his wife Jenny in a tragedy that nearly destroyed him. Now, without realizing it, he'd been helping the one person who walked away from that wreck, the sister of the man who took everything from him. This is the story of how guilt and grief can collide in the most unexpected places, and how forgiveness might be the only thing powerful enough to set them both free. Stay with me until the very end. The alarm went off at 6:15 in the morning, the same as it had every morning for the past 5 years. Marcus Cole's hand shot out from under the covers, silencing the piercing beep before it could fully infiltrate his consciousness. For a moment, he lay there in the gray dawn light filtering through the bedroom curtains, staring at the ceiling, letting the familiar weight of another day settle onto his chest. The bed felt too big. It always did. He turned his head slightly, just enough to see the other pillow pristine, untouched, arranged exactly as it had been when he'd made the bed yesterday morning, and the morning before that, and every morning since the world had tilted off its axis and refused to right itself. "Dad?" The small voice came from the doorway, and Marcus sat up immediately, shaking off the heaviness that threatened to pull him back down into the mattress. "Hey, Lily." He managed to smile, the same one he'd practiced in the bathroom mirror until it looked almost real. "You're up early." Lily Cole stood in the doorway in her pajamas, the ones with little cartoon cats that were getting too small for her 8-year-old frame. Her dark hair was a mess of tangles, and she clutched her stuffed rabbit against her chest, the way she'd done since she was 3. "I couldn't sleep," she said quietly. Marcus knew why. It was Thursday. Well, technically Friday now, but Thursday nights were always hard. Thursday had been pizza night. Thursday had been when Mom came home early from the hospital, and they'd all pile onto the couch and watch cooking shows, even though none of them could cook worth a damn. Thursday had been their night. "Come here," Marcus said, patting the bed beside him. Lily crossed the room quickly, her bare feet silent on the hardwood floor, and climbed up next to him. She fit perfectly under his arm, her head resting against his chest where she could probably hear his heartbeat steady, constant, still working even when it felt like it shouldn't be. "We're okay," Marcus whispered into her hair. "We're going to be okay." It was the same thing he'd said every Thursday night for 5 years. He wasn't sure either of them believed it anymore, but the ritual mattered. The routine mattered. Structure was the scaffolding holding them both upright. "I know," Lily whispered back. They sat like that for exactly 7 minutes. Marcus had learned to count the time, to portion out comfort in measured doses before the day demanded they get moving. Then he kissed the top of her head and gently disentangled himself. "Pancakes or oatmeal?" he asked, standing and reaching for the jeans he'd draped over the chair the night before. "Can we have both?" Ambitious. "I like it." 35 minutes later, they were ready. Marcus had managed both pancakes and oatmeal, though the pancakes were slightly burned and the oatmeal was too thick. Lily ate without complaint, picking at the edible parts and rearranging the rest. She'd learned not to hurt his feelings about his cooking, which made Marcus feel both grateful and guilty in equal measure. He packed her lunch, turkey sandwich, apple slices, the granola bars she actually liked, not the ones he kept accidentally buying. He double-checked her backpack for the permission slip he'd signed 3 days ago. "You already checked it, Dad. Twice. Third time's the charm." They stepped out into the crisp October morning at exactly 7:32, 2 minutes behind schedule, but within acceptable parameters. The street was quiet, lined with maple trees that had turned brilliant shades of orange and gold. Leaves scattered across the sidewalk, crunching under their feet as they began the familiar 8-block walk to Lily's school in Ashford, Maine. This was Marcus's favorite part of the day. Just the two of them, the world still waking up, no demands except putting one foot in front of the other. They'd developed a rhythm over the years. Lily would tell him about whatever book she was reading, or complain about the boy in her class who kept stealing her erasers, or ask questions about things she'd heard at school that she didn't quite understand. Today she was quiet. "Penny for your thoughts," Marcus said as they waited at the first crosswalk. Lily shrugged, adjusting the straps of her backpack. "Just thinking about what Mrs. Patterson said. We're supposed to bring in photos for Family Tree Day. Old photos of our grandparents and stuff." Marcus's chest tightened. "Okay, we can do that." "What about Mom's parents?" The light changed. Marcus took Lily's hand and they crossed the street, his mind racing for the right words. Jenny's parents had moved to Florida 2 years after the funeral. They called on birthdays and holidays, but the distance, both geographical and emotional, had grown insurmountable. Grief had scattered the family like dandelion seeds in the wind. "We'll figure it out," Marcus said. "Maybe they can send some digital photos." They walked past the coffee shop that wasn't open yet, past the bookstore with the dusty window display, past the small park where homeless guys sometimes slept on benches. Then, 3 blocks from the school, past the corner pharmacy with the American flag hanging limply from its pole. That's where Marcus saw her. She was in a wheelchair, manual, not electric, positioned awkwardly at the corner where the sidewalk met the pharmacy entrance. The curb cut was there, but her chair was angled wrong. One wheel caught on the lip of concrete. She was struggling, trying to push herself forward, but she was just spinning in place. No one else was around. The morning was too early for foot traffic, and the pharmacy wouldn't open for another 20 minutes. "Dad." Lily had noticed too. She was looking up at him with that expression she got, the one that said she was waiting to see what he would do, measuring him against some internal standard only she understood. Marcus didn't hesitate. He couldn't. It wasn't in him to walk past someone who needed help, even if it meant being 2 minutes late, even if it meant disrupting the routine. "Come on," he said, and they crossed the street. The woman looked up as they approached, and Marcus saw frustration flash across her face, followed quickly by embarrassment. She stopped struggling with the chair and sat back, her hands falling to her lap. "Morning," Marcus said, keeping his voice casual, non-threatening. "Looks like you're having some trouble there. Mind if I help?" For a moment, he thought she might refuse. Her jaw tightened, and her eyes, a striking gray-green, swept over him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Suspicion, resentment, fatigue. Then she sighed. "The wheel's caught. I can't get the angle right." "No problem." Marcus moved behind the chair, assessing the situation. "I'm just going to lift the front a bit and shift you back. That okay?" "Yeah." "Fine." He gripped the handles firmly, tilted the chair back just enough to free the caught wheel, and guided it smoothly onto the proper curb cut. Then he lowered it gently and stepped back. "There you go." The woman rotated the wheels once, testing, and the chair moved freely. She looked back at him over her shoulder, and this time her expression had softened just slightly. "Thank you. No trouble at all." Marcus glanced at the pharmacy. "You need anything else?" "We've got a couple minutes." "No, I'm good." "Thank you." There was something final in her tone. Conversation over. "All right then. You have a good day." He rejoined Lily on the sidewalk, and they continued walking. Lily was quiet for half a block before she spoke. "That was nice of you, Dad." "It's nothing. Just being a decent human. Mom would have done the same thing." Marcus's throat went tight. "Yeah, she would have." They made it to school with 3 minutes to spare. Marcus walked Lily right to the entrance like he did every morning, ignoring the other parents who dropped their kids at the curb and drove off. "Have a great day, sweetheart." He bent down, and she let him kiss her forehead even though her friends were watching. "You too, Dad. Love you." And then she was gone, disappearing into the stream of children flowing through the double doors. Marcus was left standing on the sidewalk, feeling the same hollow ache he felt every morning when she left his sight. On his walk back home, he passed the pharmacy again. The corner was empty. The woman was gone. He wondered briefly about her, what her story was, whether she lived nearby, what had happened to put her in that chair. Then he let the thoughts drift away. It was a random encounter, a tiny moment of connection in a disconnected world. He'd never see her again. Except he did. The next morning, at exactly 7:41, she was there again. Same corner, same wheelchair, same canvas bag hanging from the handles. This time, she wasn't stuck on the curb, but she was struggling to open the pharmacy door while managing her chair. Marcus stepped forward without hesitation and pulled the door open, holding it while she maneuvered through. "I can manage," she said, not quite meeting his eyes. "I know you can, but I'm here." She went through the door. "Thank you. Any time." The third morning, she was there again. The fourth morning, too. By the end of the first week, helping her had become part of the routine. Marcus and Lily would leave the house at 7:32, walk 8 blocks, and at block 5, they would encounter the woman in the wheelchair. Sometimes she needed help with the curb, sometimes she needed help with the door. Sometimes she just needed someone to steady her chair while she adjusted her bag or fixed a loose strap. They never exchanged names. Marcus didn't ask, and she didn't offer. The interactions were brief, practical, wordless except for the necessary minimum. "Thank you. No problem. Have a good day." But Marcus started to notice things. He noticed that she came to the pharmacy every morning. Not just some mornings. He noticed that her canvas bag always contained the same items, a few groceries, sometimes a prescription bottle, once a small potted plant. He noticed that she never made eye contact for more than a second or two, as if prolonged connection might shatter something fragile. He noticed that on rainy days she struggled more. On windy days she wore gloves with worn-out fingernails from gripping the wheels. On the coldest mornings she shivered in that too-thin jacket, but never asked for help with anything other than the immediate physical obstacle in front of her. And he noticed that Lily was watching, always watching, learning something from these encounters that Marcus couldn't quite name. One morning, Lily waved at the woman and called out, "Hi, red dress lady." Marcus nearly choked. But the woman for the first time actually smiled. Just a tiny upturn at the corner of her mouth, but real, genuine. "Hello, little one," she said. From then on, Lily called her red dress lady because of the bright dresses she insisted on wearing despite being confined to a wheelchair. It was her small act of defiance against her circumstances, Marcus realized, a refusal to fade into the background. 3 weeks in, on a Tuesday morning with frost on the windows and breath visible in the air, the woman's wheelchair had a flat tire. She sat at the corner, staring down at it with an expression of pure defeat. Marcus didn't slow down. He walked over, crouched beside the chair, and examined the wheel. "You got a pump?" She shook her head. "No. I didn't realize it was flat until I got here." "Okay. No problem. There's a gas station 2 blocks over. They'll have air." He stood and looked at Lily. "Sweetheart, you okay being 5 minutes late today?" Lily nodded immediately. "Yeah, Dad." Marcus moved behind the wheelchair. "I'm going to push you to the gas station. Is that all right?" The woman's hands tightened on the armrests, and for a moment, Marcus thought she might refuse. Accepting help with the door was one thing. Accepting this level of assistance, being pushed, being dependent, surrendering control, was something else entirely. "You don't have to," she said quietly. "I know. But it's cold. Your tire's flat, and the gas station's right there. So, unless you've got a better plan, I'm going to help." A long pause. Then, "Okay." Marcus pushed her chair down the sidewalk, Lily walking beside them. The woman sat rigidly, her posture screaming discomfort, but she didn't protest. At the gas station, Marcus filled the tire while the attendant, a kid who couldn't have been more than 19, watched with vague disinterest. When the tire was full and holding air, Marcus tested it, rolling the chair forward and back. "That should get you through the day," he said, "but you might want to get it checked. Could be a slow leak." "I will. Thank you." The woman's voice was tight, controlled. "No problem." Marcus stepped back, ready to leave, but something made him pause. "Look, I know accepting help isn't easy, but if you ever need anything, I'm fine," she cut him off. Not rudely, but firmly. On the walk to school, Lily said, "She's sad, Dad." "Yeah," Marcus agreed. "I think she is. Are you going to keep helping her?" "I don't know, sweetheart. If she needs help, yeah, but I can't force it on her." Lily considered this. Mom used to say that sometimes people need help but don't know how to ask for it. Marcus's heart cracked a little. "Your mom was a smart lady." "I know." Lily hugged him quickly, then pulled away. "Love you too, sweetheart." He watched her run into the school and stood there for a long moment, thinking about Jenny, about the way she'd moved through the world with an innate understanding of people. She would have known what to do with the woman in the wheelchair. She would have known exactly how to help without making it feel like pity. Marcus was just stumbling through, doing his best, hoping he wasn't making things worse. Monday morning, the woman didn't appear. The corner was empty, just fallen leaves skittering across the pavement. Marcus and Lily walked past, both glancing toward the pharmacy. Neither said anything. Tuesday, still no sign of her. Wednesday the same. "Where's Red Dress Lady?" Lily asked on Thursday morning, her voice small with worry. "I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe she's busy with something." But Marcus wondered too. 3 months of daily encounters, and she'd never missed a single morning. Then Thursday afternoon, she was back, but different. Thinner, paler. Dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't slept in days. When she saw Marcus and Lily approaching, she didn't smile, didn't wave, just watched them with an expression that was equal parts pain, fear, and determination. "Mr. Cole." Her voice stopped him cold. She knew his name. How did she know his name? "I need to give you something." She reached into her bag with trembling hands and pulled out a brown envelope, worn at the edges, corners soft from handling. "Please, read it. Then decide if you ever want to see me again." Marcus took the envelope, confusion and unease warring in his chest. "What is this? How do you know my name?" She drew a deep breath. Her hands gripped the armrests of her wheelchair so tightly her knuckles went white. And then she said the words that would shatter his world. "I was in the car that killed your wife. I survived. She didn't." The world stopped. Sound disappeared. Marcus stared at her, this woman he'd been helping for 3 months, and his brain refused to process what he'd just heard. The school bus horn blared, snapping him back to reality. Lily had to go. His daughter was looking at him with worried eyes, not understanding what was happening. "Get on the bus, sweetheart. Dad's okay." Lily hesitated, her eyes moving between Marcus and the woman, but she obeyed. She climbed onto the bus and found a window seat, pressing her face to the glass, watching as the bus pulled away. When it was gone, Rebecca spoke again. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Everything's in there. The whole truth. Read it, and if you never want to see me again, I understand. I won't come back to this corner." She turned her wheelchair and began pushing away, the bright red of her dress growing smaller against the gray morning street. Marcus stood alone on the corner, the envelope heavy in his hands, his entire world tilting sideways. He didn't go to work that day. Couldn't. He sat at his kitchen table, the envelope lying before him like a bomb waiting to explode. For an hour, he just stared at it. Then, finally, he opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter, several pages long, and a photograph, a young man, maybe 27, standing beside a large truck, smiling broadly. His eyes were exactly like hers, the same gray-green, the same depth of emotion. The letter began. "Mr. Cole, I don't know how to start this. Maybe with my real name. I'm Rebecca Hayes. The man in the photograph is my brother, Daniel Hayes. He was the driver of the truck that hit your wife's car 5 years ago." Marcus's hands began to shake. Daniel wasn't drunk. He wasn't speeding. He wasn't texting or distracted or reckless. He had a stroke, a blood clot in his brain that no one knew about. He collapsed behind the wheel. The truck crossed the median. Your wife had no chance to react. Daniel died at the scene. Jenny died on the way to the hospital. Marcus had to stop reading, had to breathe. For 5 years, he'd imagined the driver as a faceless monster, some irresponsible drunk who'd stolen his wife and shattered his family. He'd spent countless sleepless nights cursing that nameless, faceless enemy. But this was different. This was a young man ambushed by his own body. A victim, not a villain. He kept reading. "I was in the passenger seat that night. Daniel was driving me home from my night shift at the diner. I remember him suddenly grabbing his chest, his face twisting in pain. I screamed his name. Then everything was spinning, metal screaming, glass shattering. When I woke up in the hospital, I couldn't feel my legs. And Daniel was gone." Rebecca wrote about the aftermath, the surgeries that couldn't restore her ability to walk, the funeral she attended in a hospital wheelchair, still connected to an IV, her parents falling apart, then fleeing to Arizona because they couldn't bear the memories, being left alone with guilt so heavy it threatened to crush her. "I found your wife's name in the accident report a year later. Jennifer Cole. I read her obituary online. She was a nurse at Mercy Hospital. She made the best chocolate chip cookies, even though they were always a little crispy. She had a daughter named Lily and a husband who loved her. I didn't know what I wanted when I came to Ashford. To apologize? To punish myself? Or just to see that your family had survived, that life continued after that terrible night?" The next part made Marcus's chest constrict. "I never meant for you to help me. That first morning, when my wheel got stuck, I wanted to handle it alone. But you came. You helped without asking questions. You didn't know who I was. And your kindness, unconditional, expecting nothing in return, it broke something inside me. Every morning you helped me, I wanted to tell you the truth. But I was terrified you'd look at me with hatred. Terrified I'd lose the only good thing in my life, seeing you and Lily each day, knowing you were both okay." There was another page, folded separately at the bottom of the envelope. Marcus's hands trembled as he opened it. "There's something else you should know. 3 weeks ago, doctors discovered damage to my heart from the accident damage they'd missed in all the earlier scans. I need surgery I can't afford. I have no insurance, no savings. They gave me medication and told me to hope it's enough. That's why I come to the pharmacy every morning to pick up the pills that might keep me alive another day." Marcus felt the air leave his lungs. "I don't know how much time I have left. Could be years, could be months. But I couldn't die with this secret. You deserve to know the truth. You deserve to know that Daniel wasn't a monster. He was the best brother anyone could ask for. He worked double shifts to help pay for my college. He called our mom every Sunday without fail. He would have stopped to help a stranger with a flat tire, just like you helped me." The letter ended simply. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know the truth, and I'm sorry for everything." Marcus sat in darkness as the afternoon faded into evening. The letter lay on the table. Daniel's photograph smiled up at him from where it had fallen, and everything Marcus had believed about that night, about the enemy he'd created in his mind, crumbled to dust. There was no villain, just 2 families destroyed by a blood clot in someone's brain. That evening, Marcus picked up Lily from his mother's house and went through the motions of dinner and homework and bedtime stories. But his mind was elsewhere, on the letter, on Rebecca, on the impossible tangle of connections that had brought them together. After Lily fell asleep, Marcus sat in the dark living room with a glass of whiskey, something he rarely touched since Jenny died. He read the letter again. And this time, the anger came. Anger at Rebecca, for knowing who he was for 3 months, for letting him help her. Letting Lily grow attached, letting them both open their hearts while hiding this secret. Anger at Daniel, even though he knew it wasn't fair. Daniel had been sick, not reckless. But Daniel had still been driving the truck that killed Jenny. No matter the reason, the result was the same. But deeper than any anger at Rebecca or Daniel was something Marcus had never told anyone. A secret he'd carried alone for 5 years. The night Jenny died, they'd had a fight. On the phone, while she was driving home, he couldn't even remember what about probably money, or chores, or one of those stupid things married couples argue about when they're tired and stressed. But he remembered her voice cracking with frustration. He remembered her saying, "I can't do this right now, Marcus. I'm coming home." Then she'd hung up. That was the last time he ever heard her voice. For 5 years, Marcus had tortured himself with questions. If he hadn't called, would she have been more focused? If he hadn't started that fight, would she have seen the truck coming? Could she have swerved in time? He'd blamed Daniel, the faceless, nameless driver, because it was easier than blaming himself. Now Daniel had a face, a name, a sister who loved him, and Marcus had no one left to blame but himself. The revelation was devastating. He'd been hiding from his own guilt by projecting it onto someone else, and now that projection had crumbled, leaving him face to face with the truth he'd been running from. Dawn light crept through the windows. Marcus hadn't slept. His whiskey glass sat empty on the table, the letter still in his hands. Lily's voice came from the stairs. She stood there in her pajamas, clutching her rabbit, looking at him with worried eyes. "Did you sleep at all?" "Couldn't." He managed a weak smile. "I'm okay, sweetheart." She came down and climbed onto the couch beside him, tucking herself under his arm the way she'd done since she was tiny. "Is this about Red Dress Lady? About what she said yesterday?" Marcus looked at his daughter, surprised. "You heard that?" "Some of it. I didn't understand everything. But you've been really sad since then." He pulled her closer, struggling to find the right words. "She was in the accident," he finally said. "The one that hurt Mommy. It wasn't her fault. But she was there." Lily processed this in silence. Then, "Is that why she always looked so sad? Because she was there when Mommy got hurt?" "Yeah, baby." "I think so. That must be really hard, being sad about something that wasn't your fault." For a week after that, Marcus avoided the pharmacy corner. He drove Lily to school instead of walking. They didn't see Rebecca. He didn't know if she was still going there each morning, and he told himself he didn't care. But Lily noticed the change. She grew quieter, stopped chattering about school the way she usually did, picked at her dinner instead of eating. One evening, while Marcus washed dishes, she came to stand beside him. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart." "Are you mad at Red Dress Lady?" Marcus's hand stilled in the soapy water. "Why do you ask?" "Because we don't see her anymore, and you've been sad since that day. And…" His heart clenched. "You miss her?" "She always smiled at me. She gave me peppermints that one time, and she looked at me the way you look at Mommy's pictures. Sad, but also like she loved me." Lily pulled something from her backpack, a drawing. "I made this in art class." Marcus dried his hands and took the paper. It was a family portrait, done in crayon, him in the middle, Lily beside him, Jenny floating above them with angel wings, and next to them, a woman in a wheelchair wearing a red dress. "I know she's not really family," Lily said quietly, "but she felt like it. Does that make sense?" Marcus couldn't speak. He stared at the drawing, at his daughter's vision of their family that included a woman connected to their greatest tragedy. "Sweetheart. Red Dress Lady, her name is Rebecca. Her brother was driving the truck that hit Mommy's car." Lily's eyes widened. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Did he mean to hurt Mommy?" "No, baby. He was sick. He couldn't control what happened. Then why are you mad at Rebecca? She wasn't driving. Marcus had no answer, because Lily was right. Rebecca hadn't been driving. Rebecca had lost her brother that night. She'd lost her ability to walk. She was as much a victim as they were. Mom used to say forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, Lily said, her voice impossibly mature. It means not letting the pain control you anymore. She looked up at him with those eyes that saw too much. Maybe Rebecca hurts just like we do. Maybe she needs someone to forgive her so she can stop hurting too. Marcus felt tears on his cheeks, the first he'd shed in front of his daughter since Jenny's funeral. Lily hugged him fiercely. Can we go see her, Dad? I'll come with you. He looked at the drawing again, at the family his 8-year-old had created. Yeah, baby, I think we need to. The address was at the end of Rebecca's letter, a small apartment building on the edge of town, the kind of place people lived when they couldn't afford anywhere else. Marcus went alone, leaving Lily with her grandmother. Some conversations weren't meant for children. Rebecca answered on the third knock. She was in her wheelchair, eyes red and swollen from crying. When she saw him standing there, her face went pale. You came. Did you think I wouldn't? I thought you'd never want to see me again. He stepped inside when she wheeled back to let him pass. The apartment was small, sparsely furnished, but clean. Every wall was covered with photographs of Daniel. Daniel as a boy. Daniel as a teenager. Daniel, in his trucker uniform, standing proudly beside his rig. Daniel laughing with Rebecca at what looked like a birthday party. A small shrine sat in one corner, Daniel's photograph, surrounded by candles and dried flowers. They faced each other across the tiny living room. Marcus on an old sofa, Rebecca in her chair. Silence stretched between them, heavy with 5 years of unspoken grief. I read your letter, he said finally, multiple times. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I was a coward. Maybe. He paused. Or maybe you were just trying to survive. Same as me. Rebecca's breath caught. She clearly hadn't expected that. There's something I never told anyone. Marcus continued, his voice rough. The night Jenny died, we had a fight. On the phone, while she was driving, I said things I shouldn't have. She hung up on me. That was the last time I heard her voice. He'd never spoken these words aloud before. They burned coming out. For 5 years, I blamed your brother. I created a monster in my head, some reckless drunk who'd destroyed my family. But really, I was hiding from the truth. I blamed him because I couldn't face blaming myself. Rebecca was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. Marcus, you didn't cause that accident. I know that now. And neither did you. And neither did Daniel. He leaned forward. You were there that night. You saw what happened. Tell me, could Jenny have done anything differently? Could she have avoided it? Rebecca shook her head slowly. No. I've replayed it 1,000 times. Daniel collapsed, and the truck just went. There was no warning, no time. Jenny's car was perfectly in her lane. Even if she'd had her eyes glued to the road, there was nothing she could have done, nothing anyone could have done. The words landed like a physical weight lifting from his shoulders. For 5 years, he'd tortured himself, wondering if his phone call had distracted her. But it hadn't mattered. Nothing would have mattered. You didn't kill your wife, Marcus. I didn't kill her either. And neither did Daniel. Rebecca's voice broke. Sometimes terrible things happen and nobody's to blame. Sometimes life is just cruel. Marcus moved from the sofa and knelt in front of her wheelchair, taking her hands in his. Not a romantic gesture, just one human being reaching out to another. Rebecca, I don't need to forgive you, because you didn't do anything wrong. But if you need to hear it anyway, I forgive you. I forgive Daniel. And I'm trying to forgive myself. She broke down completely then, years of guilt and grief pouring out. Marcus held her hands and let her cry, understanding that some wounds needed to be opened before they could heal. When she finally quieted, he said, "Lily drew you into our family portrait." Rebecca looked up, confusion mixing with her tears. "What?" "In art class, they were supposed to draw their families. She drew me, herself, Jenny with angel wings, and you in your wheelchair, wearing your red dress." Rebecca's hand flew to her mouth. "She misses you. She asked me to come find you." Marcus squeezed her hands gently. "You're not our enemy, Rebecca. You never were. And if you want, you can be part of our lives, not out of guilt or obligation, because Lily cares about you, and I think I do too." 6 weeks had passed since that afternoon in Rebecca's apartment. 6 weeks of slow, careful rebuilding. Marcus had helped her find a clinic that offered payment plans for her heart surgery. She'd been approved. The operation was scheduled for next month. The doctors were optimistic. They'd started small, a phone call here, a text message there. Rebecca would send Lily pictures of the birds that visited her windowsill. Lily would send back drawings of increasingly elaborate adventures featuring those same birds. Marcus found himself looking forward to these small exchanges in a way he hadn't anticipated. On a crisp Friday morning, 6 weeks after everything changed, Marcus and Lily walked the familiar 8 blocks to school. They hadn't taken this route since the truth came out, but today felt right. The autumn air was cool and clean, carrying the smell of fallen leaves and wood smoke drifting from chimneys throughout the neighborhood. Lily chattered happily about her upcoming science project, about the boy who'd finally stopped stealing her erasers, about the book she was reading. When they reached Block 5, Rebecca was waiting at the corner by the pharmacy. Same wheelchair, same red dress. But her eyes were different now, lighter somehow, less haunted. The dark circles were gone. She looked like someone who had finally started sleeping through the night. Lily broke into a run the moment she saw her. "Rebecca!" She threw her arms around the woman in the wheelchair. No hesitation, no awkwardness. Rebecca hugged her back fiercely, tears streaming down her face. "Hey, little one, I missed you." "I missed you too." Lily pulled back, bouncing with excitement. "I have something for you." She dug into her backpack and pulled out a new drawing. Another family portrait. Marcus in the center, Lily beside him, Jenny floating above with angel wings, smiling down at them all. Rebecca in her wheelchair, a huge grin on her face. And next to Rebecca, a faint figure that Lily had drawn with lighter colors, a young man with wings of his own. "That's Daniel," Lily explained proudly. "You said he's in heaven like my mom, so I thought maybe they could be friends up there. Keep each other company." Rebecca stared at the drawing, fresh tears spilling over. "You drew my brother? He's family now too. Right, Dad?" Marcus stood behind them, watching his daughter, this 8-year-old with a heart bigger than he could comprehend, and felt Jenny's presence somewhere close. Proud of the child they'd made together. "Right, sweetheart. He's family." They walked together toward the school. Marcus pushing Rebecca's chair over the uneven sidewalk. Lily skipping ahead, and then running back to share some new thought before skipping off again. The autumn leaves drifted down around them, gold and orange and red, and the morning sun turned everything warm and golden. At the school gates, Lily hugged them both before running inside. "Love you, Dad." "Love you, Rebecca." Then she was gone, swallowed by the stream of students, leaving 2 adults standing in her wake. "Thank you," Rebecca said quietly, "for giving me a second chance. I didn't think I deserved one. You don't need to thank me. Just keep showing up. Every morning. Like you always have. I will." She looked up at him, her gray-green eyes clear for the first time since he'd known her. "As long as you want me here." He began pushing her wheelchair toward home. Not his home, not yet, but in that direction anyway. They moved slowly, unhurried, the morning still young and full of possibility. Neither of them spoke for a while. They didn't need to. The silence between them had changed over these past weeks. It was no longer heavy with secrets and guilt, but comfortable, easy, the kind of silence that exists between people who have seen each other's worst and decided to stay anyway. As they passed the coffee shop that was now open, the owner waved through the window. Marcus waved back. Rebecca smiled. They were becoming familiar sights in this neighborhood: the mechanic, his daughter, and the woman in the red dress. People had started to notice. People had started to understand. "Marcus?" Rebecca said as they turned onto a quieter street. "Yeah? Do you think Jenny would have liked me? If she'd met me before everything?" It was a question Marcus had asked himself more than once over the past weeks, and he knew the answer without hesitation. "Jenny would have loved you," he said. "She had this thing about people who kept fighting even when life knocked them down. She would have seen your red dresses and known exactly what they meant. She would have admired the hell out of you." Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Then, "I think Daniel would have liked you too. You remind me of him, actually. The way you help people without expecting anything back." He was like that. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, not pain, but something warmer. The beginning of acceptance. The first tender shoots of peace. This wasn't a love story. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was something just as important: two broken people who'd found each other in the wreckage and decided to stop carrying their pain alone. Some wounds never fully heal, but sometimes we learn to bear them together, and sometimes, without knowing it, we help someone survive simply by showing up again and again and again, until one day we realize we're not just surviving anymore. We're living.